I'm going to try to skip all the downer poems in the beginning. So we'll start right off with mutant taxidermy. It's always good. And this is my second book, Necessary Myths. Please buy some because parking is costing me $25. So. All right. When I was a kid, growing up in Lehigh Valley, used to like going to farm shows. My aunt and uncle, they had a farm in Plainfield Township, and my cousin Bill, he was like 3 years in a row the tractor pull champion, so we would hang out and do shit like that. And this is called The Two-Headed Calf at the Farm Show. It's a love story, of course. We came for sights and smells, distractions of giant beets and blue-ribbon goats. But at the taxidermy tent, we find a body mounted, badly stitched and held in place into a suckling pose by wires hidden in the neck. A calf that may or may not have been more than we expected. And who expects these things? Not the calf as it entered the world, watching itself slide out into the sharp padding of straw, strong hands pulling at its legs, one heart, one spine, branching like a river with two mouths to the sea, and for a brief moment, both mouths gasp, breath struggling down a pair of clotted throats, a God's joke that let the gentle eyes open long enough to see each other's own lovely brown eyes slowly close. The one heart too shocked to bring legs up for balance. And finally those farmers' hands let go. So now under a sun-hot tent we reach out to touch it, holding hands but looking away, thinking of the big coffee eyes, the moment one person knows before the other that the fight for air is over, when one heart's not enough for both of us. All right. This on my list. This poem sort of came out of a story I heard on NPR radio one day. This was when the recession was at its worst, and we were talking about, of course, how all the little towns in Europe were suffering, except this one town was doing very, very well. And the reason is the primary industry in this town was weapons and arms manufacture. It's called The Man Who Works at the Swiss Hand Grenade Factory Loves His Family. And they love him back, like a still life routine as he walks in the door each evening, hangs his coat on the hook next to the backpack his oldest son takes to school, and his little daughter smiles up at him from her puzzle. Unicorns preening in a field, their touching noses, the unicorns, and he reaches down to feel her hair streaming over the back of her neck, her skin the color of halved pears. She's so full of everything now. The unicorns, her father's love. There's food simmering in the kitchen and the day's mail on a table under a lamp he bought and burned. Outside, the sun beginning to fall past the living room window casts the light on his eyes for a moment. So he closes them. While in Damascus, a man pries open a crate of hand grenades, passes them out to other men who take them into the streets where Swiss sunlight will burst all over the morning. One more two-headed calves. It's called The Details. One thing it mentions, when this is sort of about when my wife and I first met when we were in college, and at the time I had like hair down to my ass. So those days gone. The details. Making lists helps us feel better about forgetting things,
but does little to help us remember. Do you remember the night walks by the Susquehanna, the May stars moving in and out of sight like bilingual lovers shifting their tongues, phrase by lovely phrase? There was probably grass and gravel underfoot, something moving in the trees and maybe wind. I forget a lot of things, like how my long hair felt over my shoulder, the batik skirt you wore sometimes then, and how we planned, made lists of what we wanted. Now it's enough to know there was a plan, something far off, like a hazy mountain seen through the fog without needing to grasp the details. Because I guess I'm getting forgetful. In fact, yesterday, my wife comes to me and she's holding a remote, a TV remote, that she found in the refrigerator. And she says, "Grant, do we need to talk about something?" I said, "Blame Natalie, dog. Maybe." Probably a lot of you knew Lou McKee, Philadelphia poet. I wrote this one shortly, actually the same day, went to a memorial reading for him that was held in media or something like that. Yeah, where people were coming and reading his poems, and I right after that I came home and wrote this called New Level for Lou McKee. Every year the pool under the bridge gets deeper, dragged out by winter's fist and the constant drag as the earth plows a path around the universe. And every year the trout find new lies to haunt, new rocks to call home, the cloud patterns of their bodies fitting into the shifting current. You can't stop water from finding its way home, but you can talk it into different directions. Today we remembered a man by setting his words free, and as we opened our hands, we heard the water, its deep inhaling sigh, like a dam that finally breaks, and all the river rushes through to find a new level. One more from this. Anybody get up to Hickory Run State Park ever in Luzerne County? You know the boulder field? Old glacier formation. It's called the Carbon County Boulder Field. The gray goes on for a quarter mile, then spreads into the trees. A glacier paused and emptied its pockets, lightening its load. Could this be what it comes to? The dry debris abandoned when one era ends and another begins. Every kind of passing leaves a field of gray remains. Boulders stuck in place, settling through years into their own memories. We've seen these rocks before, touched their lichened skin, exposed for weathering. The rough edges of each life rub dull by contact. I hold your hand in mine at the edge. The trees look so far away. My brother's kind of nerdy like me, and he was looking on Ancestry.com and places, hoping to find a Clouser coat of arms, something. He failed because we were peasants. The Swedish side of the family, we were like fishermen in Malmo, and the Pennsylvania Dutch side of the family were rock farmers. So I thought about that anyway. It's called coat of arms. This good? You hear me all right? Yeah. If we weren't peasants, our coat of arms would hang above a great family hearth. Did I read that? Yes. If we weren't peasants, our coat of arms would hang above a great family hearth, instead of crumbled in the junk drawer with old cell phone cords and broken corkscrews. Instead of swords crossed for valor, ours would show rusted blades from the lawnmower that needs fixing. Our family motto would be a heavy sigh at dinner after the children have left. The sound eyelids make when they half close at the end of a sentence, so you know the conversation is over. Our coat of arms would bear the wag of restless dogs, the cries of mockingbirds, and the silence of cars leaking oil in the driveway. No one would wear it on armor or a shield into battle, or a flag flown over a keep. But our arms carry it now, like groceries from car to kitchen cupboard. We feel it always like a dancer walking home from the practice studio. Blisters and tape on her feet, pain and pride bound together. When I was in high school, I was a punk rocker. I had a mohawk like here, and then in college it grew long, so I don't know what I was doing. I was all confused. Anyway, so I hung out with a band of other people, all with spikes on our shoulders and things. And then many, many years later, there was a reunion of the Lehigh Valley punk rockers, and it was weird. We got together to see how badly we all aged. So I wrote this called Villanelle for the Allentown Punk Rockers 30-year reunion. And when you write a villanelle, you have to call it villanelle so people knows what it is. Otherwise, it's annoying. Kenny Costenbader is dead. Jules turns hot dogs on the charcoal grill. The music's too loud to hear what she said. What's left of the band bob their heads as we share stories, photos of kids until she repeats that Kenny Costenbader is dead. She points out fading tattoos, our punk cred stretched over arms and backs, names misspelled. I shout because the music's too loud to hear what she said. They found him at home, OD'd and naked with a short note and a bag of pills. It's true that Kenny Costenbader is dead. It's true Tom's an accountant, he got ahead. Sherry's a hairdresser, Jet pays her bills. I nod because the music's too loud to hear what she said. Adam's a waiter, Tina died in a birthing bed. Meat is burning on the charcoal grill. She writes on her hand, Kenny Costenbader is dead, because the music's too loud for me to hear what she said. At Muse House, I taught a two-day course on odes. I really like odes, especially the more contemporary odes, like with Kevin Young, if you're familiar with his food odes and whatnot. So I wrote a bunch, my food ode, called Ode to Scrapple. Scrapple eaters in this room? I live in Hatfield, 2 miles from the Hatfield meat packing plant, and it actually features sort of bit in here. And on Friday nights, they burn off the stuff that couldn't even make it into Scrapple. And if the wind's blowing the right direction, my dog will stand out there in the yard, just mesmerized. I can't believe it. Because the smell of charred waste goes from our house. Ode to Scrapple. Its name is what was left when all the better words were taken for other things. Here there's title and history. Will to stake a claim in one word, Scrapple. I rise early, before the son and daughters, before the dog stretches his old bones across the door jamb to pee in the dark. Because the economy of dawn is momentary and true. The night's crumbs tumbling into the morning's expectant wag, and in that crossroad moment when things become only present, before either shadow or light lay claim, I look for compass points toward the day, plan the route. Scrapple knows where it comes from and doesn't mind, wastes nothing and still keeps it together, not like me, moving through the years like a traveler, dropping excess kit along the trail as the day heats up. Let's get righteous about waste, about taking up what others leave behind. We build new cities on the broken walls of the conquered. We raise our children in the light of things we've lost, and still we bury our dead in green fields. So dawn I fry the offal, a pawn house of cornmeal and pork bones and butter with eggs. the dogs sniffing around the floor for bits I've forgotten. There you go. Another ode to my old brown boots. I was raised to make things last, to save the hot pans baking grease in a jar for the next day's fried potatoes, to rip old shirts and rags for washing the 15-year-old car. You've gone almost as far as my Dodge, from Catasauqua's asbestos-shingled alleys to the muck bank of the Maumee River. Every fall I'd pull you out of the box to test your soles, wet the leather with mink oil to keep winter out. You must know by now my path from garage to gate, the stride it takes to walk the yard, to round the pond where thin foxes stalk. Even burn marks and scuffs when you stomp an errant spark or kicked a stone wall loose can't wear you down. Your hides half held up by blister pus, proof you made the hike along Appalachian's rocky spine. So now it's hard to face the truth that time's caught up. No new heel pads can fix a sole worn that thin. The black toenail where I dropped a brick won't grow back strong. My kids are grown and tall. They argue like a new world is on their side and they're dressed to walk all over it. And here you are, stretched and warped, drying by hearth's wood heat. Emptiness, the only thing that can hold you up. Mapping Mars. I think I was in the fall when the planets are very visible, especially out in Hatfield. I don't have a lot of lights to block it, so I've got beautiful stars at night. And in the morning you can see Mars real clearly around October. There are a couple of words in here that refer to what features on Mars that used to be thought of as dried up oceans, but now they know they weren't. They're mare, they're Latin, I can't pronounce it, so I won't bother. So when I get to it, trust me, you know what I'm talking about. Mapping Mars. We remember what it was before all mystery dissolved, before robots crawled every canyon and scanned the rocks for sea salt. Now we know the barren shores, peaks and plains are barren. The story's barren too, stripped of life as much as oxygen, as much as water faded into space. What replaced the water? Filled craters in the planet's lost canyons. Illusion, mare, aurora, dark places named for oceans, seas of basalt only. Last night I watched its distant pinhead glow still red, still warm and dwarfed by Jupiter and Venus. A carved October moon dragging smaller lights by chains. I learned the stars new names, plans man makes to make them home. Mars is more than rock to me, more than dust to track a trail through, to plant a flag unmoved by air. What's lost more than water, specks of life, and something older? You show me, and we'll believe it's there. Anybody been to World's End State Park up at the top of the state?
Yeah.
Around the
Wellsboro.
yeah. The Wyoming State Forest all around there. I used to camp a lot out there when I was younger, and my wife and I would go camping there a lot. And then, of course, once we got married, she told me that vacations now needed a roof and a beach, and no longer tent.
And air.
Yeah. Anyway, this is going back, thinking about those days, called World's End Revisited. The trees have aged as much as us, but show it less. Their bark turned hard from fire and the wind that carried songs down the canyon. When they fall, their leaves curl up like cast cocoons. We brought nothing and took it all home. Took the wind for granted and the moon that turned to vapor every morning and back again to moon. Those stars that shot the night burned and gone. We built for need at the end. Loved hot the way a fire flares in a stone ring and smolders back to flames in morning. Dew on our tents evaporated under sun, then down as rain by evening. No children then, or even dreams that soon. Now our girls are grown and moving on to ends they'll choose. Our choices, work and house, fireplace in the den, kitchen dripping in the sink dripping in the kitchen. We've mortgaged more than a house, our skin and bones. Those days at World's End, building a camp and fire for the meals, down pavement for the road beyond the river bends. Everything we've loved stays the same somewhere, no matter how it's changed. That's memory. The stones that built a fire pit, still strong despite their cracks. Hot coals we chose to carry. How am I, Mike? Read another?
Yeah, it's just,
I got one more.
yeah, that's good.
All right. Called Naming the Hurricanes. 10% of the choice just comes, 10% of the choice is just the luck of the alphabet. J comes after I, then K. Next we move to mothers-in-law, black sheep brother or drunk uncles. What about girls you spurned in high school? Who gets to flatten sand dunes? Who gets to strand the elderly on rooftops while dogs float down streets on billboards? Someone must have hated a certain Sandy or feared a certain Andrew to pin them forever to destruction. Why not name the spring rain we fall in love to at the windowsill? The sun shower we splash through in flip-flops at the beach. Who do we call the first snow in December? The one we wished would come and hope it stays all month? A prize we earn for November's gray. I want to name this bright day after you. Call it daughter for the way it rose sleepy in the morning, then warm on my arms in the yard. Every wind becomes someone we once friended. Everything that falls from the sky should be someone we love and need to go on touching. All right. Thank you much.